Hello, and welcome back to the ministry, and we're on to part 5. And we're picking up where I left off, where I was beginning to explain the levels to a dream. I'm sure all of you have experienced this. You're asleep. You go into a dream. You have a scene. A sequence of events happen within that scene. Sometimes you move from the room that you're in to the other room and all of this, but it all takes place within pretty much the same environment. Or if you'll move from that room to out in the hall to downstairs to outside. But you're always in the same place, the same plane, the same atmosphere, what have you, right? Then you'll notice that sometimes you'll have a dream that everything that is in sequence all happens within sequential order. Correct? This is a level 1 dream. Or it can be a level 1 dream. Then, level 2. The scene switches. The level change for a dream is the scene switching to another environment. And sometimes that other environment is completely different than the one that you just left. Now, level 1, you walk from room to room, out the door, down the hall, so on and so forth. Everything is in sequence with itself. That's a level 1. A level 2, now you've jumped from one scenario to a completely different scenario. Okay? Completely different environment. Sometimes the environment it has nothing to do. Perfect example. I've told you before, maybe I may have a dream where this thing is happening. Okay. Everything in this dream is transpiring that this thing is happening. Okay. But now it's switched where maybe this thing is, I'm dreaming that I'm sitting in my house somewhere. The whole level 1 is me being in a familiar space. Okay, dream level 2. Sometimes in the dream level 2, things might change and get a little adventurous. This is usually the level where you might find, sometimes you'll dream of a celebrity, or you'll dream that you're in an environment that is something that you normally wouldn't have access to. There's a little bit more to it. I've told you before, I've had dreams where I went from a regular level to being in a movie, being in a movie trailer, watching a film play out before me, being in a TV show. This happens for me because of the fact that it's something that speaks to the fact that I am a creative. I'm a writer. I screenwrite. I do all of these kinds of things. I write music. I do this. So God knows He can talk to me in the intricacies of these things, and I'll be able to figure out what He's saying. Okay? But it'll be a little bit more detailed. And sometimes what you'll find is relevancy. Now, God, what He will do, He will use actual places, spaces, and events in your dreams that are real in order for you to have a callback. so that when you are awake, when God is trying to get your attention to say, hey, I let you dream about that, He will directly place into your dream a thing that your eyes are going to come into contact with. Okay? So I'm going to use a past thing as an example. The other day, I had a dream about a piece of music. Okay? I'm going to say music. And the dream that I had about the music, it was a song that I'd heard within maybe 3-4 days prior. But it was specifics. Now, when I know God's really, really trying to get my attention, what He will do, He'll use a song I ain't listened to in God knows how long. And I know that's God. And I'm like, whoa, God, I ain't heard that in 15 years. What? You remember when I did that review for, it was an episode on one of my shows, and I said, I ain't seen this episode in 25 years. What 25 minutes? It's been at least 20 years since I watched that episode. But it was that long ago. And the Lord brought it back to my remembrance. I remember one time God brought a dream that I had 5 years ago. I did not have the record that I had back then that I kept from 5 years ago when I was writing down my dreams on paper. So much has happened to me in that time frame. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But He made me remember the dream from 5 years before. He brought it to my remembrance in the moment I needed to remember it in order to pray about it. Okay. And then there'll be certain elements, but it's a little bit deeper. Now, we talked about darkness in dreams over the last 2 videos. Sometimes the Lord will take me to a level in my dreams, and I know that it's a deeper level in my dreams because I am clear, I am fighting, and I am aware to all of my surroundings. Meaning, okay, keep your wits about you because something about to happen here. You need to be aware of not only what's happening, how it's happening, and in what way it's happening. Okay? I like to call these types, this happens to happen, it was an old movie based off of a video game. It's funny that the Lord brought this up to me, but He actually gave me a dream about this recently. The game Silent Hill. Now, when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I used to love to watch the playthrough of the Silent Hill games. And the Lord brought that back to me in a dream. And I knew it was the Lord because of the way that it was brought up in the dream. Plus, the Lord knows that in my day-to-day, during certain forms of warfare I go through, I say, man, we hit hell state. That to me is almost like a trigger word for me to be saying, oh, we just hit warfare. Because it's when everything's running smoothly and then warfare comes out of left field. In the movie Silent Hill or video game, there was such a thing called Hell State. Hell State is the state of being when they went from regular Old Silent Hill, which is the Ash City, where this is actually based, the game was based off of a real place. But whenever the demons were coming out to start wreaking havoc and all hell was about to break loose and you knew you was about to get into a fight, you know how we've been hearing sirens all over the place? That's what you would hear first. You would hear the sirens. That was the first inkling. Uh-oh, something's about to go down. Next, the entire environment would turn from regular, everyday colors to you felt like you were in a red, hellish whirl, and you would see volcanic embers and fire. And that's when, as you were going through, it's the exact same landscape, same map out, same everything. It's just everything looked demented, bloody. Blech. Why did I say this for level 3? Because sometimes whatever is your warfare state, that's going to be your level 3. Meaning, sometimes your warfare state is a light level. Me, I'm a warrior in the spirit. I go in the spirit. When I go into war mode, oh, I'm coming to kill whatever has infiltrated in that space. Okay? So because of that, you gonna have me always on this level will be me going into combat mode, meaning I'm out here with the special victims unit people, organized crime folks. We trying to solve crime. I often see the police in my dreams. And I know that means that something being uncovered, exposed, so on and so forth. So I start seeing stuff like that. That could be a level 3 for me. I start seeing a person that is, they are maybe they look like a serial killer or hitman. This can represent, and I think I said this in a previous video, angels that are sent to take out and destroy weapons of the enemy. So for me, that can represent angelic assistance coming in. Oh, this fight's not yours. We're going to cut this one up. We're going to take this one out. We're going to hit him and we're going to take him out. We're going to make sure this particular demonic entity that has been bugging you is going to be chopped up, cut into pieces, and disposed of. Yeah, bloody, nasty, looks like something from a homicide, one of them homicide movies, serial killer movies, when the person is diligently cutting the body apart. Yeah, that's the way God works. Some of y'all be like, oh no, God don't. Yeah, when he's fighting for you, he's precise and he uses precision, and he'll send the angels that are coming in to cut them folks up. It's like, oh, we're going to inject you, we're going to cut you up, and we're going to take you out. But by the time we're done with you, there ain't gonna be none of you left. Okay. And then what he often does with me is he will either turn me into the person that played my favorite main character. And I'm gonna say this since we here. I used to love to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Some of y'all righteously indignant people are gonna have a heart attack because I just said that. That demonic show, yeah, God uses things to give people wisdom. Okay. And guess what I found out the name Buffy means? promise of God. Mic drop to them righteous, indignant people that heard the name Buffy and wanted to switch off. I'm gonna let that sit right there for a second. So those of y'all that every time I said that I was watching my show, that was my show when I was a kid. And those of you that when I said by prefacing the review I did and said that that was a show I watched, and because you were acting righteously indignant and chose not to watch the marriage words that I released before because I said, oh, I was watching Buffy, you missed the revelation because her name meant promise of God. We ain't gonna stay there. Point being, for me, level 3 may be me slipping into my warrior mode and using my spiritual weapons to take some stuff out. I'm going to get a little further into that, but I needed to preface that to show you the levels. They're about to explain some things. So as they're explaining it in the movie, you're going to understand what I just told you. Okay? Getting back to the movie. So they're determining the 3 different levels for the person in which they're going to infiltrate their dreams. Okay? So level 1, they are planning that, oops, everything turned. They are designing the levels. Level 1, they need to create one level of thought. So in this, because they're doing an implant, they need to change the man's mind. This means they need to dig into his psyche and go back to a thought that is attached to something from his childhood. This is a psychological move. Psychologists, when they're trying to get into your mind to find out about something that occurred, they will use activities, questions, trigger questions, so on and so forth to get you to think backwards into a psychological space all the way to a pain point so that they can then break the pain point and release you from the trigger or the what have you, the core basis thought that created the fear or the apprehension or the source thought that prevented this thing from taking place in the first place, preventing you or is hindering you now, delaying you, or so on and so forth, coming from something that happened as a childhood wound to get you to do what it is that you need to do now, or to stop preventing you from being able to do something that you're trying to get done. Okay? Or for us, it would be for us to break through into whatever it is that we're seeking to break through, whether it's a tax bracket, a new living environment, a new what have you. This man is saying we need to psychologically implant, meaning they have to go back spiritually into this man's mind and create a thought that replaces the thought. You ever heard people that are mindset coaches tell you, and I'm not saying anything wrong about mindset coaches, stop it. I'm saying that remember how they always tell you you need to replace the old memory, thought, or belief system with a new narrative. That's exactly what they're doing here. So they need to create a thought. Level 2. they need to instill that thought by reversing its effect. I remember I took a teaching early on in my walk with Christ, so it had to have been around almost about 8 years ago. And in it, it talked about how psychologically, if we are dealing with something from our childhood and we know that we saw this thing happen and we become disgruntled, our survival mechanism will kick in and say, I'm either going to do everything in my power not to become that thing, or in the prevention of becoming that thing, we do everything that leads us to become that thing that we were trying not to become. I learned this about 7 or 8 years ago. Okay? This is what they're trying to plant in this man's mind. They need for him to not want to follow in his father's footsteps. So they're trying to twist his thoughts of his father so that they can then turn him around so that he'll want to be the opposite of what his father wanted. Okay? But they had to first go through level 1 and plant the thought. Okay? Third level they are desiring to do. His father doesn't want him to turn out like him. So what they are doing is causing an epiphany moment. Okay? I'm not going to tell you what happens until we get there. But all in all, I will tell you psychologically, they are taking a moment. I want you to picture any moment, and this is on a psychological level. I actually went through a training like this where I had to forgive somebody that no longer was alive, or I no longer had access to at the time. And they had us do a visual exercise where we had to visually picture the person in which we were desiring to forgive. And you see psychologists do this. I need you to forgive this person, so I need you to picture that you are face to face with this person. And the apology that you never got, I want you to imagine them saying it with the most heartfelt feeling that would make you feel appeased. And then I want you to forgive them. That's exactly what they are doing in this situation. Just for knowledge's sake, okay? But I literally just showed you how they are psychologically messing with this man's head. They're using psychology, the science of thought, to implant this scenario into this man's mind. So with that being said, the chemist creates a sedative compound that will time them out so that with every level down they go, the longer they will be there. There is danger to this. We never found out the danger until we get into it. But I'm about to lay out the time frame. Level 1 in the dream is 1 week. Okay? What is 1 week? That's about 10 hours of sleep, which is about your average time of sleeping. If you slept the whole night, and went to sleep at an average time, like let's say you went to sleep at 8 p.m. and you woke up at 6 in the morning, 8 to 6 is 10 hours. Okay? So to you, that's normal. But what if you were walking through a week's worth of an experience? In depth, in detail. Think about that. Would you really want? Level 2. Because of the way that this time works in dreams, when you hit level 2, it's like you're going from the lightest level of sleep. You're in light sleep. You're in, is that the REM sleep? Or REM sleep is when you slip deeper. But whatever that first level of sleep is, you're going from that first level of sleep where like you can hear everything. And I know you've all experienced this. You've gone to sleep and maybe somebody else was in the atmosphere with you. Do I want to go there now? I'm going to go over it briefly. I'm not going to go into depth detail. I might do it in the beginning of the next video. But this is the level of sleep that you're lucid. Okay? With lucidity in your dreams, that means you're not fully asleep, but you're not fully awake either. You know how people say that, and I'm sure you've heard, if you listen to videos, you've heard people talk about I was just coming to awakeness when I heard the Lord say this. I was just coming to awakeness when I heard the Spirit say this. I was just coming to awakeness. I clearly heard this. Okay? You were lucid at that point, meaning you were coming to a point of alertness where you're aware that you're not asleep no more, but you're not completely awake either. There are people that literally train themselves. I saw a video pop up on my YouTube channel about 2-3 weeks ago where people they would do a 30-day run and train themselves to be aware of their external atmosphere while still dreaming. They were training themselves to have lucid dreams. There is also the element that they like having that ability because it's a good place to have control of what's going on in your environment. Meaning, if you want more control, they would use lucid dreaming. Me, I asked the Lord for control. Lord, I need you to give me more control. I'm doing a little bit too much. I'm allowing a little bit too much to happen. And sometimes Lord will use your dreams as a training ground to show you, oh, you need to fight this. Oh, you need to battle this. Oh, you were going through this in the reality, but spiritually, this is what's actually happened. I need you to fight here. Okay? That's what the Lord is doing. So, getting back to the level 2 is 6 months, which, because of the way that the sedative operates, it's like you're folding time. So 10 hours operates as 10 times 10 times 10. Okay? So that's a 6 month, which means 6 months is how many weeks? 24 weeks is what happened when they folded time in the dream realm. It's still the same 10 hours, but it now has lengthened their time frame for their ability to get things done that they're trying to do in that realm. And that takes the same amount of hours, but the way that the dream perceives it is going to take 6 months. Meaning it feels like you've been asleep for 6 months. Okay. Now, level 3. You are now folding 24